What's up, Moto Buddies? Mike here from Taco Motoco and Baja Taco Tours. We have a total Baja Slayer right here. This is a machine that's been set up to do some Baja runs in the future, hopefully, and very soon it's going to go and do the Utah BDR. And this rider's got some cool plans for this machine. He's been setting it up over the years. When he bought it, I think it was stock, and he's been outfitting it and brought it to us, and we've done some things to it, made some changes and improvements on it, and it's a real rad bike. You know, the 12 through 16 generation has a lot of fans out there, and this one for sure gets a lot of attention whenever he's out on rides. I think it's just really well set up, very tastefully done. Our rider is a real cool guy too. He is a F-18 fighter pilot, and I guess he was in the Marines, he is looking for, obviously, the kind of guy who wants the most performance in anything possible, right? These fighter pilots, they're badass dudes, and this owner's a badass guy, and so he set up this machine really, really well, and it'll handle, you know, any kind of riding this guy's going to throw at it. So let's take a look at it from the front. He's got some TM Design Works Lug Guards. I like these. These are nylon. They also come down and they protect the bottom of the caliper there. I think they do a good job. Power parts, KTM power parts, disc guard. So if you have one of these that is like a full shield like this, a Cherubies makes them. There's a few of them out there. These are basically just a mud guard. It's not a true rotor guard. If you hit that with a rock or a branch or something, it will bend the rotor, but this just keeps mud and water spray off that as best as possible. We threw on the Moto's Tractionator. This is the SI, and it's the new version. So they updated the tread pattern not that long ago, and I was really a big fan of the old one. In fact, that was probably one of my favorite front tires, and this is, I think, probably as good. Maybe it's just a little bit of a mental gap on my part, but I still like the old one. The new one is a really good performer. Inside of there we have Techno Moose front and rear. These are the Enduro version. They make 3 different grades. They have a Motocross Sahara, which is their ultimate like high durability one, and then the one in the middle is the Enduro, and that's what we have in there. Dingo fork guards. He's got a Baja Designs light. This is from Baja Designs. It's not the Moto Minded version, so there's no adjustability. You can't turn that. You have to get back in here with a screw to turn that, which is kind of annoying. We like the Baja, or we like the Baja Designs light, but in the Moto Minded bracket. Trailtech radiator guards, big Cherubies gas tank. He's got an Earls, the sintered brass fuel filter in there, and that's a nice upgrade. You want to get away from the plastic as much as possible. I've always been a big fan of the plastic fuel filter, the Mall stock filter, but we've just seen quality control issues on those like crazy in the last little bit, and so we've stopped recommending those. I know in past videos we talk about them, but we are going to move away from that and not recommend those any longer. They just seem to have a high failure rate. So going with something metal is the way to go. And this Earls filter is good. We are coming out. We have in development a metal insert filter, a lifetime filter, cleanable lifetime filter, fuel filter in the tank, and that'll be coming out sometime later on this summer. So we'll post more information on that. As far as up here on the cockpit, he's got the nice KTM hard parts levers. These are the Pro Bend bark busters, and then you can see there's a little bit of a spacing issue. Some bar guards have a little bit of a tricky issue with the flex handlebars, and so you can just see how there's a little bit of a bend. You could get in here, and I've seen guys Dremel some of this material out so that you don't have this little walk here. But when you put these on, you know, he sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and so there's a little bit of bend there. Also, as you kind of wipe out and crash, you can see that this is bent in a little bit, and so that's where some of that comes from, and that's just going to happen as you ride bikes. Some of the stuff up here on the bar guards can bend over time. Scott Stabilizer BRP undermount. We changed out the red firm bushings to the blue, a little bit softer, and then there are softer bushings available. I forget if these are the intermediate. I think the yellows are, but if you're a vet rider, having the BRP takes care of some of the dampening from the motor vibrations, and then having the flex bars and experimenting with the dampers. You want to find something that works good for you and gives you good feedback. On the forks, we swapped out the fork springs, Race Tech. We use Race Tech springs, front and rear, stock valving, or whatever previous he had in there. We didn't change that. We just freshened up the oil and the seals and threw on some heavier springs as he loads this thing up. Molecule skid plate, we pulled off an aluminum one, which is heavy and rattly, and adds some frame stiffness. And so to maintain good chassis flex and get rid of some of that sound, we swapped it out. He's got a KTM hard parts oil pump cover. Dirt Tricks, remember, if you add your Dirt Trick sprocket to remove the damper, the rubber dampening ring around the primary sprocket, you want to take that off. He's got the hammerhead. This is the heavy duty hardcore CNC. So you can get brake levers, or shift levers. A couple of things about hammerhead, really cool. They make these tips in various lengths, and so if you have a bigger foot, you can get this so it'll offset out, and they change the head. So the lever itself, the arm is the same, but the heads are different. And you can order those, you can change those. And so that's very clever. I think Hammerhead does a good job with how they set those up. Here is what's going on with this lever. This is the CNC version, and this is the hardest one, strongest one available. So some of the advantages are it's much less likely to bend as you come across rocks and hit this. There's a disadvantage though. It is so hard that it could potentially bend the shift shaft as it comes out of the end of the engine here. And I've seen that happen on a couple of occasions. So you kind of have to weigh out what you think you want by way of a failure point. Everything needs, like a circuit breaker, everything needs a failure point, especially something that's going to get hit. So is it going to be the lever or the shift shaft? I'm of the opinion, this is my personal opinion, I'd rather break a lever and then keep a spare lever with me than do anything to damage my shift shaft. So that's my own view. I know others may have their own, and that's cool. So on my bike, I don't run the strongest shift lever possible. I run like a standard cast one, and then I just keep a spare lever. I want that to be a circuit breaker. There's another thought too about foot pegs. So these are clever. I don't know who makes these. Let's see what it says. Pivot pegs. This is the first time I've ever seen them. They feel a little bit strange. So there's a spring, it's spring loaded, and as you pivot your weight forward or backwards, it sort of flexes with you. It took a little bit to get used to. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I wouldn't run them. But I think they're clever. And so if you're into experimenting and you wanted to see if this was something that, you know, may aid in like some ankle issues that you may be having, might be worth a shot. I don't have any ankle issues, so nothing I'd want to try, but really cool design, very interesting. I think that's a pretty neat little product. It's in the high position. I don't know if you can take any of this and turn it around and flip it over so you could run that in a lower position, but that's what we've got going on here. Fastway, that's the ultimate kickstand. I think he's got the Exc-f frame guards here. Inside we put on a filter skin and then a PC Racing filter skin gasket. He's got some upgrades here to the fuel system. He's got the Fuel 90 and then a fuel filter, and these came from, I think that's from Best Dual Sports. And then what else is going on? Recluse CX clutch, and I think that's it for now. We just threw on a new chain. This is a DID, the Exc-w chain. So it's an X chain with it's X on the outside with a W on the inside, something like that. Very highly rated. I think the RK chain is probably one of the better rated chains out there, and I think that's their newest sort of version of the seals. So he's got a hub, aftermarket hub and rims with heavy duty stainless steel spokes. And who makes this? We'll put a link to some of this stuff in the comments or in the notes. We put on the Tusk wheel bearing cover, which is something that we like a lot, and then he's got the Tusk axle block there, adjustable axle block, Polysport swing arm covers, very cool. Back here he's got this is the sick ass under fender with the sick ass light. It's not the Moto turn signal light because he's running kind of a Street Fighter setup, no turn signals, no horn. I think he's got a very minimal situation going on. So the Akrapovic pipe is very loud. if you want to make a sound statement on your bike, this will do it. It's a very cool, very deep rumble sounding pipe. So to fuel that pipe, this is the EXC bike, the EXC model, and so we threw on a dynojet. So we custom mapped a dynojet for this machine for the 12 through 16 EXCs, and that's what's on there. Very, very responsive, clean power. It runs incredible, super rad. Down here we threw on a one of these greasable Zerk bolts that we're doing some experimenting with, and we'll have more and a release on that. Not out yet, but look for that soon. Let's see. He's got the tusk on this side. This is the brake lever, and then this is the one that is cast, and so these will bend and may break, which is fine. Again, going back to what we talked about, you want something that offers you a failure point. Less important over here, because if the brake lever goes to a big bolt, 13 millimeter nut bolt here, and so all of the forces that are going to be carried are just going to be transferred here into the frame. So I'm not super, I think I have a different opinion as far as the brake lever. If you wanted to go with one of those hammerheads, the CNC, the very, very heavy duty ones, I'd be okay with that on the brake lever, but not on the shift. So this is the one that is less strong. He's got a Tusk kickstand. There's no upgrade here other than it's just black. All the smog stuff's been taken care of. This is I think it was a P3. The sticker's gone, but I think that was a P3. And then we threw on a P3 water pump cover. So the 12 through 16s have this, it's super big, right? Very vulnerable. Rocks coming up in here. And so we've got that covered. Again, the molecule does a good job of protecting the lower side of the engine. He's got this pipe wrap on. It's very controversial pipe wraps. So some of the reasons why you'd want to do this is heat protection away from you as a rider. It puts the heat into the pipe, keeps it into the pipe, and so you're not going to burn yourself on it. If your bike falls on you in your pants, it's not going to burn through. Another reason guys do this is there's some theory that says if the hot exhaust gases run through a hot pipe, then there'll be less adhesion of the pipe, the gases to the pipe. So if the pipe is cooling, if the radiant temperature is lower on the pipe than it is the gases, then you'll get some disruption in the airflow through the pipe because of that temperature difference between the gases and the metal of the pipe. Whereas if you have a wrapped pipe, then you will have more I always say this word wrong, laminar. Beat me up in the comments. The laminar airflow. So there is some science that suggests having the pipe wrap does improve some of that. Will your average rider notice it? Absolutely not. You can do this too. Now, as far as coatings, there are ceramic coatings and services available, and you can buy cans of this, like rattle cans too, where you can coat the inside of your pipe with ceramic coating, and that's absolutely viable, and that does in fact reduce outside metal temperatures, and it does have some of those beneficial side effects of exhaust gas extraction. So there's some science to back that up. The downside maybe to having some of those products, well, there's really no downside, but you have exposed metal. So if you fall over, you're still going to burn your pants potentially. So another downside maybe that people suggest is as this gets wet, it's going to retain water, and so it will spoil the finish of the pipe. But if that's not a concern and you want to keep that pipe from burning your pants and you want to maximize whatever potential benefits there are from the gas extraction, then wrapping your pipe is fine. I don't really have a strong opinion against it. I know a lot of guys flame up about it in the comments, and of course you're going to read in the comments where guys are going to talk about how it's a bad idea. I think it's a fine idea. I'm not going to do it to any of my bikes, but I don't have a problem with it at all. So this is what it looks like if you want to do it. And he did a beautiful job. It goes all the way up to the top of the manifold. Very clean. I mean, he did an exceptional job on it. So if you wanted to do it, you could use this as your benchmark. And then what you do is you put some stainless steel safety wire, and then you just turn it and spin it and then shove it in. So top-notch work. Whether or not you want to do it, you got to respect that. There is some logic behind it, and if it's your thing and you like it, then you can get yourself some. The Acerbis, these are like little gaiters that go on the upper part of the forks. There's no real protection here. They're kind of vinyl rubber. And so what they do is potentially they could prevent some sort of injury to the upper fork leg. But really, it just sets off the look of the bike. I think having black forks is pretty cool. Dingoes. So we did a bike not too long ago where we talked about how if you go with the fork wrap, the fork shrinks, they are pretty much for aesthetics only. Dingoes are, as far as we're concerned, probably the best legitimate fork protection. It's a nice, hard, rigid plastic. It's got some little energy-absorbing ribs in there, and so if you take some hits, this is going to protect your fork. Now, these can crack, and that's fine. So again, these kind of act as a circuit breaker. If you hit this hard enough, then you'll crack it, and that told you that you would have potentially had a lot of damage to your fork. You probably would have dented your fork tube, and then you just swap it out. They're low cost. So I like the Dingoes. He's got these on here. Trail Tech radiator guards. I think we talked about that. He's got the little Canyon Dancer tie downs. I like these. We put these on all our bikes. These are very strong, and you can tie your bike to that if you're riding it, if you're putting it in the back of the truck. And the reason why you want to do that is because he's got the flex bars. You wouldn't tie down, so you wouldn't. First of all, you have very limited spots where you could put a hook. I guess you could throw kind of a soft loop through the lower side of here. Do not put downward force on the bars. So you wouldn't like throw a hook over that, because now you're going to be pushing down on the rubber dampers. So you could go through here. This just makes it simple and easy. And also having your hooks at a lower spot on your forks ends up being to your advantage while you're transporting your bike. He's got this KTM hard parts hour meter. So that's showing 17, but I think the bike on the clock is almost 200 hours. Let's see what it is. Yeah, 219. So at some point he threw that on, and that shows 17 hours. Let's see. That might be it. This is a great bike. Oh, on the rear tire we threw on a Tusk, the Recon. I think the Tusk Recon is a very good tire for the cost, and that's the asterisk, for the cost. It's fairly inexpensive. It's not exceptional at anything. It's not the best enduro tire. It's not the best desert tire. It's not the best mud tire. I don't think it rocks out any one particular thing. But I will say this: it's very good. It's very comparable to some of the other tires out there in this category. It's sort of it's a very soft rubber, and so it's sort of like that hybrid trials tire situation, where you've got a soft compound in a dirt bike, sidewall situation, a dirt bike profile, and I think I like them. Definitely like them for the price. So if you're the kind of guy who's burning through a lot of tires in a season, I think it's worth a look. I don't care for the front tire. We've done a little bit of testing with those, and I just don't feel the confidence like I do with the Moto's front tire. So that might be a good balance if you're trying to be a little cost conscious, and you run through a lot of rear tires. The Recon might be the way to go. My favorite tire is the Moto's Tractionator IT for the rear. But I think this is a really good tire. I don't have any problem with it at all. So let us know if you have any thoughts about any of these components or anything we talked about in the comments. Like and subscribe, and just like this guy, for sure, go out and get some adventure.